welcome back, everybody. We are going to have a wonderful conversation today with Tyler, and Tyler is a part of my team, and I will get him to introduce himself in just a minute. But this conversation is specifically for you if you are at a level that feels uncomfortable, whether that's a beginner, whether that's up-leveling, where your new identity hasn't necessarily materialized yet, where your old identity sort of needs to catch up to the newness of who you are and what you want to be doing. And so that is what we're going to be talking about today. So welcome to the podcast, Tyler.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
So share a little bit about who you are and what you do so that those people who are not in Zero to Clients get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am one of the program coaches inside of Zero to Clients. I have a background. I'm a certified health and life coach. And inside the program, I work with people on social media strategies and things like that. But then I also do our weekly mindset coaching calls for the team. And that's really like what I would call my zone of genius, or where I just kind of fall in love. I love mindset stuff. And that's what I'm so excited to talk about today.
And you might be thinking, oh, that's weird. Like social media and mindset, those two things aren't connected at all. You would be wrong to assume that, because I am going to put myself into this category. It is not the easiest to show up consistently. And there are many reasons for that. And so we're going to dive in today to the most predominant, and I think the most, what's the word? I want to say like blocking, but like that's not proper grammar, but the most predominant and I think the most critical mindsets that working with all of our clients and Zero to Clients that Tyler sees all the time, that we see all the time. And so like I said, if you are someone who is at the very beginning of your journey, or if you are someone who knows that your current identity and your current mode of operating is not going to get you to the next level, this conversation is going to be really eye-opening for you. So I want to set the scene. I want to sort of explain, I think, a little bit about what we do so that you can decide if this sort of mindset is, relevant for you. So in Zero to Clients, we work with very smart, very qualified practitioners and coaches from all over the world. We work from Australia, Canada, the United States, Dubai, places in Africa. Like we work with people from all walks of life, from all over the world. And there are some common denominators. So do you want to sort of share what you've seen, and then we'll sort of dive into the, psychology of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would kind of classify our ideal clients. They are either like one of three types. They're either brand new to the coaching space. They have no clients. They've never done this type of work. And so they're afraid because they're brand new. I would say we also have the very seasoned professionals who have been in their industries for 10, 15, 20 years. And now they're transitioning into the online space. And then we also have the professionals who are like changing careers. Like they were doing one thing and now they have a new passion and they're doing something else. And so all of them, regardless of where they are at, in this space, they all come into Zero to Clients and they're brand new to the online world for the most part. They've never run an online business. And so what I see is like a lot of freakouts, a lot of people struggling to kind of let go of who they were to step into who they are becoming.
And how does that show up? Give me some examples, because I think for a lot of people, and again, I am not immune to this, I know how it shows up for me, and I'll share that in a minute, but I think it's really important to be able to recognize yourself in some of these examples because, and this I want to sort of punctuate, because what you say you want and the goals that you have for yourself versus the behaviors that you're doing are not congruent. And that's where we come in, right? Where we work with people who have raised their hand and invested and said, I want this success. I want to be able to impact people. And their behavior is not in congruence with what they say that they want. And then we come in, specifically Tyler comes in and goes, why, right? You're here, you've invested. It's all outlined for you. Why can't you do what we're telling you to do? And I think that's the question that you have to sort of ask yourself is, if you say you want something, right? And I'll use myself as an example. Like, we have some pretty big goals for 2023, right? We have some pretty big goals. And so the question then became, well, if I said that I wanted this and we set these goals, then why am I allowing all of these like little minutia distractions to take me away from working on the big ticket items that I know will get us to our goal? And the reason that I do it and the reason that you do it is the same reason. It's because we're afraid for whatever reason, right? There's some level of fear. So do you want to give some examples of how this actually shows up?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, fear is such an interesting topic because fear to me is usually a reflection of our self-worth. Like, are we worthy of these kind of things? And so a lot of times our clients come in, and I love our clients. They have such big goals and big ambitions, and they're so excited to like go change the world. And then they get stunted by the fear. And, regardless of where they're at in their journeys, whether they're brand new, whether they're the seasoned professional, or whether they're the career changers, like those are kind of the three that we've identified, they all come into zero to clients and they're all having to start in a new space. And so I think the biggest issue or the biggest problem that I see with our clients is that they don't know how to embrace the beginner's mindset. They don't know how to be a beginner in this space. And so because, for like the professionals who have been around for 10, 15, 20 years, they're coming in thinking, well, I know it all. And then you ask them to write a social media post or do a marketing email or, do a Facebook Live. And they freak out and they're like, what? This is not what I've done. Like, I've done academic research papers all my life. And, and so they really struggle with creativity. They really struggle kind of with the unstructuredness of entrepreneurship because they're very disciplined. They like certain things in a certain way. And so for them, I think oftentimes I see people either completely run away. They like ghost us. We're waiting to help them as coaches and they just never ask for help, or they're really afraid to ask for help. Like, I get people who come into the mindset call who are like, oh, I've been in the program for like 4 months and I've been so stuck. And like, this is the first time asking for help. And I'm like, wow, should have done that on day one, And it's because we have an insecurity around ourselves and we really struggle with the beginner's mindset. We're afraid to be seen as new.
Yeah. As you were saying that, I was sort of chuckling to myself and I'm like, maybe that's the reason that I'm so successful is because I never cared to look like an idiot. You know what I mean? Like, I never cared. It never bothered me to show up and look like I have no idea what I'm talking about because most of the time I don't, right? Especially, and I think this is so important to discuss, especially when you're going into a new arena. Like, and I think the expectation that they should know is part of the problem because I just always operated under the assumption I have no earthly clue what I'm doing. So can you please just tell me so that I can go and have success? Like, I have no clue. That's a unique sort of characteristic or perspective that you might want to take on to be like, I'm actually quite proud of the fact that I have no idea what I'm doing. And this is why I'm paying you. So can you please just tell me, right? Like, I'm here. I have no clue. And I think it's so funny that you say that because I never felt embarrassed. Even now when we go into conversations with like lawyers or accountants, like I ask all the questions. If I don't know what a word means, I'll be like, can you define that for me, please? Like, it never bothered me. And I think that is a huge, especially, and you can probably agree with me, tell me if I'm right or wrong, this is more popular with the practitioners who are coming from a clinical background where they're so scared to be seen as unprofessional and their whole identity is wrapped up in, I'm a clinician, I'm a professional, like I should know all the answers. Like, they're so scared to be like, I don't have an answer to that.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you're saying these kind of things because I see it a lot with our professionals, like the practitioners, our NDs, anybody who has that clinical background, like they come in and what I've realized is they're going from a space of like academia to entrepreneurship. And I think in academia, like there is this strive to be perfect. You're always shooting for the best grade. You're always trying to be top of the class. And when you come from a very highly educated background, and you have a doctorate's degree or something like that, you're coming from a place of perfection. Like they breed perfection in college and, in your upper level level degrees and things like that. And then you get into entrepreneurship and it's totally the opposite. Like you're not going for perfection. You're actually trying to see how many times you can fail first before you figure out what works. And that is one of the, like, it breaks their brains. I say this all the time. I'm like, we're breaking your brain, aren't we? And it's true because like we have to like deprogram them from being a perfectionist to being somebody who's willing to show up and fail at something, because, you know, I look at failure as feedback. Like that's all it is like when something doesn't work out, it doesn't mean we failed. It doesn't mean we got a low grade or a low score. It's just feedback. Like it didn't work. Okay. Like let's scrap it and move on. And for those highly academic people, they really struggle with this because they are always shooting for the A+, and entrepreneurship is not an A+ game.
Oh my gosh, that was so good. And as you were talking, the words self-worth just kept coming to me over and over again. And to your point, and I say this too, like we need to brainwash them into a new way of thinking, because all of a sudden their self-worth, and I'm just like thinking this through because we've never had this conversation before, but like all of a sudden their self-worth is no longer attached to being the best and clinical outcomes and science and all of that. And it's attached to trial and error, which for that type of person is extraordinarily difficult. And so, you know, their ideal of what makes them a good human, their ideal of what makes them a good clinician now is being sort of measured on something totally different, because what we're saying is it doesn't matter. You just need to get it done. Like we're being like, it's not going to go well the first time. Like, and they're like, what? Like how? And it does. And it breaks their brain. And I think that that's maybe why a lot of people, especially those who have experience in some area, like whether they're a life coach or they're a speech pathologist or they're an art therapist or even a teacher, you know, we've had teachers come in and, you know, it's this one way of doing things. And you're right, entrepreneurship and building a business from scratch, even with a proven framework, still requires a level of testing and a level of repetition and a level of, you know, quote unquote, like failing and then extracting the data from that failure and being like, okay, let's try it this way until we nail it. And I think for a lot of people, that brings up this feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm a fraud. Oh my gosh, I am an imposter because I'm playing the role of a clinician or I'm playing the role of a life coach, but I don't feel like I know what I'm doing at all. And what I always say is like, we need to separate it. You do know what you're doing, but what you were trained to do is not the same thing as having business acumen or business skills. And that is where you were a beginner. That is where you are learning. Is that what you see too with our clients?
100%. Absolutely. I always tell our clients, as an entrepreneur now, you're wearing multiple hats. And so I give them the visualization of like, okay, there's a time to put on your clinician hat when you are the professional, when you are really safe and comfortable in like what you are doing and who you're being. And then there's times when you have to put on the marketer hat or, you know, the social media hat or like whatever figurative hat we're talking about here. Like you have to put it on. And when you put on that hat, like you have to give yourself permission for this to be uncomfortable. You have to give yourself permission to detach from the professional, you know, because like I think a lot of times they feel like they're either like starting over or they feel like they're like losing, you know, the X amount of years of experience they have. And I'm like, no, like you've built out this really strong branch as a professional. And now you're starting to nurture and build this little tiny entrepreneurship branch that, you know, we're here to support you with. And, you know, they really struggle with detaching. They really struggle with detaching from, I once was the professional and now I'm coming into this new space and I don't know how to be a starter. And like the one thing that I always tell people is to just show up. You know, like you said it earlier, Lori, you just showed up. You didn't know what you were doing. You didn't care if you had a stupid question or didn't make sense or anything like that, but you just kept showing up. And like that is the key to success, especially inside of the program, is like you just have to keep showing up, keep doing the work, keep, you know, asking the questions, keep connections with the coaches. Like that's how you get through through it. And that's how you like set yourself apart, is by just showing up. And some people are really, really good at that. And then others they struggle with it.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any strategies, like whether it's like a repetitive mantra or like something to get, because I think sometimes the feeling is in the body is so intense and it's not real, because, you know, we were talking about something similar the other day in our coaches meeting about this fear of not showing up online and not wanting to post for fear of like the trolls, you know, some random person on the internet, like mean comments. And we get clients that, you know, celebrate their first mean comment on their Facebook ad. And I said, you know, we need exposure therapy. We need to implement some level of like exposure therapy so that we neutralize that feeling in the body, because the thoughts that we think create these feelings, and the feelings stop us because fear is such a potent feeling, right? It's so strong. It's so strong and so irrational at times that it literally stops us. So do you have any strategies that you can share to sort of minimize that so that you can get into momentum?
I have several strategies. I'll share a couple. Number one is, whenever you're doing something scary, always have like a startup ritual. And this is what I tell our clients, like when they're about to do a Facebook Live, when they're about to go do their webinar. I mean, even if they're about to like hit post on social media, like whatever it is that's scary to them, like have a little startup ritual. And it could be like 30 seconds of like, you know, just closing your eyes, taking a couple of deep breaths. You know, for me, anytime I do live coaching, like I light my candle, I grab my crystals and I hold them while I'm coaching. Like, it's these little things that like anchor you into the present moment, because I think fear stems from the future. It stems from like the possibilities of like, what if I post this and then I get the troll? Like, we don't know what's going to happen until you actually post it. And so anchoring yourself in the present moment with like a startup ritual, and then, you know, just taking the action when you're present and grounded, and I think a little more calm. And then the second one that I'll share is always be celebrating. ABC, always be celebrating. And I remind our clients this all the time, because, you know, oftentimes, especially when we come from a professional background, we're only recognized when we achieve big milestones. And in entrepreneurship, you have to celebrate the little milestones. You have to celebrate like the first Facebook Live. You have to celebrate the first, you know, email that you send, the first subscriber. Exactly. It's like all of these little things. And so I tell our clients on the mindset call, you know, ABC, always be celebrating. And then I ask them to every single day at the end of the day, like identify what is one little thing that they are celebrating that day. Because it's programming your brain to remind you that, hey, I showed up today. I took action. I made progress. And, you know, to me, progress is what defeats fear. And so if you are continuously progressing with your goals and with your tasks, then eventually the fear starts to go down. Like, fear will always be there. We will always be afraid to do something, but the way you beat fear is by showing up and making progress.
Yes, I love that. And thank you for sharing those. One of the things that helped me to understand this so much was there was a mentor that I had, and his name was Dan Sullivan. Well, his name is Dan Sullivan. He's just no longer my mentor. I'm not in the program anymore. And he had this concept called the 4 C's, because I think for a lot of people, they're wanting to feel confident at the outset because that feels secure. That feels safe. Like, oh, I'm going to wait until I feel more confident. I'm going to wait until I have more experience. I'm going to wait until I feel like the content is better or perfect or whatever the case may be. And going through these 4 C's, I started to even recognize in myself, like, oh, I kind of have this ass backwards. Like, there is no way that I'm going to feel confident at the outset because I don't have the competency yet. And so the 4 C's are, first, you need to make a commitment. Then you need to have courage. Then you need to have capability. And then confidence appears, right? Because until you have the competency and the capability of doing the thing, why would you ever think you would feel confident about it in the first place, right? And so it's just such a rational way of sort of removing your feelings to be like, oh, duh. Like, why would I ever expect to feel like comfortable and confident when I would never expect to feel comfortable and competent getting on a horse for the first time or snowboarding for the first time or riding a unicycle? Like, why would you ever expect to feel competent and comfortable doing a Facebook Live? It's the same thing, right? And so yet people go on horses for the first time and ride unicycles and do Facebook Lives. It's because lower your expectation. Like, that's one of the things that I think I got the most out of coaching was like, just lower the expectation of how you're going to, of course it's going to feel uncomfortable. You've never done it before. Like, why would you think it would feel any other way other than that? And what I would say to that is just because it feels uncomfortable doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong or that you're not a professional. They're two separate things, right?
Yeah. And what you were just saying about like, being comfortable and confident, I think one of the biggest things that we struggle with too, and I hear this all the time on the mindset call, which is amazing. It like actually blows my mind. People show up and they go, oh, I thought I was the only one experiencing this, and I was like, no, you're not. You're not. Everybody, like, and this is, I think, one of the biggest gifts is that awareness of like everybody feels this way. Even the top elite still struggle with confidence when they are doing things for the first time. Like, like it is completely normal. And I think we need to normalize, that this feels uncomfortable, that this feels scary, and that's what we do. Like in the mindset call is we normalize it. We acknowledge, hey, this is really challenging. This is scary. This is hard, but we still have to do it. If you really want to grow a successful business, if you really want this to be your dream, you have to do it, and it's okay that it's hard. It's okay that it's scary, but that shouldn't be an excuse to stop you or slow you down. And so, you are not alone in the struggle. You are not alone in these feelings of this is challenging or this is uncomfortable. Of course it is. Like entrepreneurship is one of the most uncomfortable things that you can choose to do in your life. Yes. But I think it's also one of the most exciting things. And so why not take the journey?
As you were just talking about that, what was coming to my mind was what we sort of started off this conversation with was your own identity. And I know that because we've worked with thousands of different people from all over the world, we have a code inside of Zero to Clients, and we call it the Leader and Transformation Code. And we indoctrinate all of our professionals into this code because there is a requirement of you to shift your identity. There is in order for you to be successful, there is a dying off of the old identity and an adopting of a new identity. And that is that everything that goes on is of our own accord. Like we are responsible for all of it. And, obviously the code is like a page long. But at the core of it, we are leaders in transformation. And if we can't lead ourselves, if we are not self-led, then like how on earth can you show up with a level of integrity and lead clients? Well, you can't. And that's also probably part of the reason why people feel like an imposter and feel like a fraud is because they know that they're not doing the shit that they need to do. So how are they supposed to show up and then tell clients to do the same thing that the clients don't want to do? The clients are going to experience the same level of fear, the same level of resistance because change is hard. Change is not natural. Change is not normal, right? And so as you were sort of talking, I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about, this identity shift that must occur. And for people to create this new identity for themselves, like I am working on creating an identity for myself this year that I am a disciplined person and that I move my body daily. Like that is not easy for me. It's not something that comes easy. I would much rather keep my ass in this chair and work than, move vigorously. I don't enjoy it except walking. And so it's this new identity and it's like incremental. It's like 5 minutes a day. It's like, I can do squats for 5 minutes a day. Like I can do that. Like, please, you know what I mean? So it's like one post a day or, reaching out to one person, like you can do it. It's the identity. Are you someone who follows through or are you someone who is stuck in fear? Like it's an identity and then figuring out incremental, small bites to be able to go and do it. But I think, having interacted with our clients for this long, it's such an interesting conversation when we start to talk about like identity and self-worth and imposter syndrome,
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Gosh, I don't know. I could talk about identity for like hours, days, months, years. Like identity is okay. I was actually in therapy yesterday. I'll just share that. Like I was in therapy yesterday talking about identity, and because to me, like you have to master yourself before you master anything else. And so when people get into zero to clients, they think, oh, I'm just going to start an online business. What they don't realize is how much self-mastery goes into this process, into this journey. And like, I think that's what actually freaks them out, is because apart from them having to build funnels and do social media posts and send emails and things like that, is like they have to actually put a mirror up to themselves and look at themselves and be uncomfortable with the reflection that they see, you know? But it's this type of work. It's the work that you are doing on an individual level inside of yourself. And this is, you know, it all starts from within. You have to really give yourself that space and that time to sit with these hard questions, to process the emotions, to look in the mirror. Like, honestly, sometimes I tell our clients, just go look in the mirror and like affirm to yourself that you are an entrepreneur, that you are a badass. I don't know if I can cuss on this, but I just did. But
hello? Have you met me?
Well, it's Lori, I know. But you know, you have to own that. You have to own your awesomeness. You have to own the fact that you have a calling. You have a purpose that has brought you here. Like, it is one of the saddest things I see is when people don't answer their callings and they let fear stop them from doing the things that they were called to be doing. You know, our practitioners are so amazing. They have all of these great ideas and dreams. And like, gosh, I'm going to like support them as much as I can because I believe in their dreams. I think sometimes more than they believe in their dreams.
100%.
But like, it all starts from you looking inside of yourself and affirming to like your core that you are capable and that you are worthy of this. Because again, it comes back to the self-worth. Like, you are worthy of a successful business. You are capable of doing this. And like, this is your birthright. To entrepreneurship is like a birthright. If you want to build something, you can build something. And like, gosh.
Yes. Oh my goodness. You said something that I want to go back to for just a minute. I want to give everybody a challenge because I have started to do this and I recognize that it was very uncomfortable at the beginning. Tyler said, go look in the mirror, and I'm going to give you the challenge. Actually go look yourself in the mirror for minutes, because I was finding like, sure, I put mascara on and like, you know, I put moisturizing cream on and you're in the mirror. You see your reflection, you're brushing your teeth, and you're doing all the things. Sure, you see yourself, but have you looked yourself in the eye, in the mirror, and affirmed who you are and who you want to become and what you're going after? And so I started to do that, and I saw myself, you know, like I saw myself. And I do this little trick with my affirmations where I actually say my own name. I don't just say like I am. Like, I learned this from Brendan Burchard, and I don't know the science behind it, but I can feel the change in my body. So like, I will say like, Lori, you are doing a good job. Like, Lori, you are capable. Lori, you are smart. Lori, everything that you desire is flowing to you. And it just, I don't know why, but it like just does something to me. And I like look myself in the eye. Like, after I brush my teeth, I like habit stack. So I brush my teeth and then I look myself in the eye, in the mirror, and I say these things to myself. And then I go and I like put the mascara on and whatever. But like, look at yourself, like actually connect with yourself for like a minute and see what that does for you, where you can see yourself and see your edge and see your ambition and see your heart and see your compassion versus just like rushing around all day. I really think I would love to know if you do that. Send me a DM on Instagram. I'm at Lori Kennedy Inc. Honestly, let me know what it felt like for you to look yourself in the eye, in the mirror, because the truth comes out, right? Where maybe you don't like where it's going for you, or maybe you you are mortified that you can't bring yourself to do this thing. Like I was super mortified that, I couldn't bring myself to like move my body every day. Like I didn't like that about myself, right? Because my identity is such that I am like a healthy, active person. Well, like the reality is not so much, And so I didn't like that about myself. And I was like, okay, I don't like that about myself. And it caused me to feel a little bit impostery, and it caused me to feel like a fraud because again, here I am sitting on this, platform being like, follow through and you can do it and your excuses are bullshit. And here I am being like, I have a treadmill in my bathroom, in my bedroom. What is my excuse? I don't have one, So I think we all have elements of this. And so the faster you can get real with yourself and show up for yourself and ask for that help and ask for that accountability, the faster you sort of quantum leap into like what you desire. Because to Tyler's point, like it is all about self-worth and it is all about that. And so if you're not following through, it makes sense. You feel like a bag of shit. It just does,
Can I add 2 things to that?
Yeah. Hit it.
As we finish up here.
Wrap up.
Yeah. When you do this exercise, do it without shame or judgment. Like this is not to scold yourself. This is not to talk negatively about yourself. This is not to be like a whole shame spiral exercise. It's to simply just get honest with yourself and say, okay, what are the things that I love about myself? What are the things that I necessarily don't like about myself that I could improve upon, and then this gives you a working platform to build upon, and I think the biggest thing when it comes to, self-development, when it comes to working on your self-worth is like, you have to do this without shame, without judgment, without guilt, because like we are all imperfect humans. Like that's the beauty of being a human, is that we're imperfect. Nobody's perfectly polished all the time. And so when you approach this work from a place of love and a place of like, hey, I'm just doing this because I want to better myself, to better my life, it becomes a lot more, not easier, it's not an easy job, but it becomes a lot more accessible when you come from a place of love versus a place of judgment and hate. And so that's the last thing that I'm going to say.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that, because that's, I think, the most important thing. When you look yourself in the mirror, it's just coming from a place of pure honesty. It's just a starting point, right? Where we're under no false pretenses, right? Where it's like, okay, this is my identity and this is who I really am. And there's a gap there. And so what supports do I need to close that gap? Will it ever be closed? Probably not. We're human. But I think just the simple act of getting into momentum changes everything. The simple act of like working towards closing the gap. It's progress. It's making progress, and it's all about that. So thank you, Tyler, for this conversation. I know that this is going to impact a lot of people in a very important way. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the Empowered Practitioner Podcast, and I will see you next time. Bye.